Hi everyone, welcome to HubShots episode 314. In this episode, we look at HubSpot Loop Marketing Explained. We're going to add in there some reflections from Inbound 25. What is the Loop Marketing Playbook? Why should you use it? And the good, the bad, and how to practically apply it to your business. My name's Ian Jacob, and with me is Craig Bailey from Zen. How are you, Craig?
Really good. It's been a great week and a great month, actually. And unfortunately, I didn't make it to Inbound, but you did. So some exciting announcements there. We're going to go through, well, obviously Loop Marketing was one of the things that they announced. A lot of people are confused about it. So we're going to chat through that. But before we do that, let's chat about Inbound. What was some of your high-level takeaways? You were there. You liked San Francisco. You enjoyed the conference. Yeah.
I think, Craig, like having in a different location, like we've been at Inbound for many, many years in Boston, which is HubSpot's home, and being in San Francisco was so different this time. I think it was different for everybody. Where it was at the Moscone Center was actually pretty good. I thought everything was really well organized, and it felt like a similar experience. Like if you weren't out and about, it felt like a very similar experience. I felt there were a little less people this time. But still, it was a great event. You can imagine a lot of things have changed. And through that, my conversation with people was that, there was a lot about AI, a lot about, we'll talk about Loop. But people just I felt like they fully haven't grasped what's going on. And they're still trying to feel their way through it. Like people were talking about AI, and I just realized some people had tried it, but didn't really like it, didn't really use it on a day-to-day basis. They were trying to understand the whole AEO or GEO, as some people call it, with optimization with LLMs. I think what was good is that Loop Marketing kind of brought all of that together, understanding where we're going, and kind of puts a framework around it. There was one session that stood out to me, which was from a person named Zach Cass. At the start of the session, he said, I want you to put your phones away. So he was on for about 40 minutes. He said, I want you to put your phones away and not look at it. I saw the shock and horror on most people's faces of like, I'm not going to look at my device. And, it was a really great exercise. But he talked about some great things in terms of understanding where we are with AI, its effects on people, its effects on humanity. So some of the things that we don't often think about is that and he said this, even though we live in a very connected world, we actually are very disconnected, right? So how do governments, cities, how do they nurture connection, right? Like what are the open spaces that we live in? How do we interact with people? Are there places to go to, play games? Like we should be thinking about all of these things in the process of time and how people are interacting so people don't get isolated. And it was really fascinating. It's like you've got, he explained it if you think of a K, right? A K is going up and down. He goes, there are people that are going to relinquish their thinking to AI, which is going to diminish. And then there are people that are in this part of the K that's going up. And they're the ones that are going to use AI to exponentially grow their thinking, to expand their world, to do great things, right? And he goes, we've got to choose which path we're on. We're either going down or we're going up. And that really hit me, especially because I've got 2 young boys, and it's so easy today. I just feel that you can really relinquish thinking to AI. You don't have to think, just ask it the question. Oh yeah, I'll do that if that's what it says. But I think I always keep coming back in our conversations, it's like, do you know what's good and what's bad? To trust what it's saying. And I think that you'll see that all through this episode is that, do we know where we're going, and does it line up with what we know that needs to happen?
All good questions. And I don't know if Loop Marketing solves them, but I think it makes a good conversation around some of these topics. I think based on some of the things you and I have been chatting about and your insights and takeaways, there's 3 currents or themes I feel for 2025 as a time that we're in. The first, of course, is all the change from AI, which is disrupting and apparently solving every known problem we might want solved if you listen to the the enthusiasts. But AI is certainly having an effect, disruption, pace of change, all of that. Okay, on top of that, you've got social channels where content and of any format can be pumped out at scale. So you've got this massive noise out there overwhelming us much more than in the past. And then the third thing you've got in bringing it into a HubSpot conversation is that the platform has changed, say, from 10 years ago when you and I were starting, Ian, from something that we could very comfortably be experts in its entirety to a platform that is so large and massive now that we have to just pick and choose the areas that we're going to specialize in. And we can't possibly be across it all. And so for anyone in that ecosystem, the HubSpot ecosystem as we are, that's quite a shift from just a few years ago. Those three forces. A platform that has grown up, HubSpot is punching well above its weight, gunning for the Salesforce mantle. A massive platform and ecosystem in the midst of AI disrupting industries right, left, and center, and social channels where we do look for that connection that you talked about, being overwhelmed with content slop and noise. It's difficult times to navigate. And so we can see why anyone going to these conferences or a knowledge worker in general in any industry is completely exhausted. And where do I go? And so on top of that, when we get to loop marketing, and we should dive into that now and think about, well, firstly, what is it and how it's explained by HubSpot? One of the comments, not one of the comments, but one of the themes that I saw from people is that it was very high level. It was very conceptual. A lot of the things discussed perhaps at Inbound, but in particular with Loop, were very high level and confusing. People came away and they didn't actually know, what is it? How does the rubber hit the road? What do I do? Was that a sense that you got from there and conversations you had, Ian?
That was definitely a sense, Craig. And I think you would have probably seen, I shared with you a video, someone made a comment saying, well, how do I apply this? Like, what does this mean for me? And I think that, look, to be honest, I think everybody's working it out, right? Like, so if you just think of the exponential rate of change that we're going through, no one knows everything, right? So I'm sure HubSpot is a couple of steps ahead. They're testing new things, testing and working and measuring and kind of applying this model that they've come up with. And I think like we're going to have more data, we're going to know more things, and we're just going to have to keep iterating and learning, right? Remember, we used to always say test and measure. I think even more so today, that is so much more relevant in this day and age that we're in. So if there's one thing you need to remember from today is keep testing and measuring, and don't be afraid. Like, you have to be okay with failing, and you've got to be happy with testing new things. That's why we have great conversations. Like, you challenge me to think differently about something. And I think people need to have people in their world that challenge them about thinking about the way they do marketing, the way they do sales, the way they have conversations, the tools that they use. Like, these are all things that we need to think about to make our lives better.
All right. Let's jump into loop marketing. What is it? Hey, and can I get a few of the cynical things out of the way, Ian?
Sure, Craig.
I think we need to acknowledge these. I don't want to turn this into a negativity kind of fest, but I do think we need to acknowledge some of the criticism, some of the confusion that people have had, and I've seen on social and things like that. And so first of all, around, well, what is loop marketing? Before we even get into what HubSpot describes it as, just the fact that they've released it with a loop is, to some people, a target for criticism. And me included, I'm like, why is it a loop? Why do we need that? You know, we've had the inbound marketing methodology, we've had the funnel, had the flywheel. Apparently we've got to get rid of all of those, Ian. And now we use a loop. Why do we need a loop? Why couldn't it still be a circle? Who knows? I think they're all good questions. And look, they probably just chose something new. I don't know how they came about it, and I'm sure it was a lot of thought and consideration, but they probably just chose something new to take as a go-to-market, because the inbound marketing methodology, shall we call it, has a lot of baggage attached with it. It's got the funnel, so you've got to explain that away and how things iterate. You've got things like inbound. What is an inboundy way to do things? And you remember when HubSpot talked about doing cold calling in an inboundy way?
Yes.
You know, they tried to stretch inbound to accommodate all these things, and we laughed at them for that. that's no longer, there's that baggage that they have to overcome. So I don't think it replaces inbound marketing. I don't think it replaces the funnel. There is a place for them, although that has changed, which we will talk about. But really, it's just, look, they had to come up with something fresh. Someone decided Loop was it, looked good, okay, easy, nice logo. Hey, wow, let's do it. I think it's no more than that. And I don't think we should get caught up on the Loop concept
Mm.
as what we've got to understand. Just assume it's a brand.
Yeah.
The Loop marketing, it's just a brand. It's not a concept you need to comprehend. And the other thing that's good about it is then that they can just attach AI to everything. I mean, any public company, they've got to be talking about AI nonstop, wall to wall, for shareholder value, apparently, Ian. And so, of course, you've got to do that. So Loop marketing just gives them the license and flexibility to do that. Any comments to add to that? We'll get that cynical part out of the way and then talk about the benefits.
I think you make a good comment there, Craig. And people can spend a lifetime picking things apart, right? But I'm thinking of it like a map, right? I can follow it. I might have to make deviations along the way, but I have somewhat of a path to execute or to get started on. I think that's what I like about it. It's just a path to that bridge that we're trying to get over. And if we remember that, and nobody has it right, like no one gets it right first time, like I'm sure it will evolve. But I say take it and run with it. Test it, measure it, and give it a go.
Yeah, look, I agree. And so maybe let's get into what they say it is. We've got HubSpot's words. And look, let's just quickly talk about the 4 stages. We'll talk about what HubSpot says and then how we interpret it, because it does seem very vague, I will say. So they have 4 stages. You've probably seen their overview of this. They've got their Express stage, which is about defining brand. They've got their Tailor stage, which is about using AI with messaging. They've got their Amplify stage around content across channels, and then their Evolve stage to iterate quickly. And of course, all of these must have AI in them. If you read their page, it's almost like, don't try and do anything without AI. It's all AI. And I do feel, just coming back to slightly negative or cynical parts of it, everything is AI. I just feel like they're sprinkling the AI dust everywhere, perhaps forcing it in where it's not yet, certainly not fully cooked, but they put it in there. But before we go on to kind of describing it in my words, is there anything you want to, how did you feel about those 4 stages, first of all, Ian?
I really struggled to digest them first, my honest opinion. And I've had to spend a bit of time. And I think one thing that you did really well was you spent a lot of time while I was away digesting it and coming up with a framework, which you all will see. So to be honest, I am still digesting and making sense of it. And that's my journey. I feel like you're a bit further on that journey. So let's continue on.
Yeah. Well, my comment on it is I don't think there is anything new here. We had a subtitle for this episode called Everything Old is New Again. And what I mean by that is the concepts that we're going to go through are not new to marketing. And I think that was the problem, because the way it was initially pitched or positioned was marketing is broken and we've got the fix for it, as though this is something new that fixes this new problem. And actually, when you break them down, it's the same old marketing concepts. And so the way I would position it, and you can see this in the show notes, is stage 1 Express is really just define the problem that you uniquely solve and who do you solve it for. All right, now that's not a new approach to anything, but that's probably the first stage for most businesses that are starting out. Now, if you're an established business, you've probably got this pretty much under control. You might use AI to kind of refine it, and we're going to talk about that later. You've got a really good example with one of the agents. But then stage 2, Tailor, I think the slant that they're putting on it is really around personalization, but it's actually just about all the marketing assets that you're going to create. There's nothing new here about creating marketing assets, and there's nothing new about tailoring it for your different audiences and trying to make the message as specific as possible. What they're doing, though, with Loop Marketing Conversations is they're saying use AI to personalize. And I really like this because they've moved AI from being this content slop creation machine to a personalization focus, or put another way, a relevance machine.
Yes.
Which I really like. And as we all know, we should be aiming for the Amazon experience. for our customers. We all love going to Amazon and getting this personalized experience that seems to know us inside out. Obviously, that's a consumer experience. Even in B2B, we should be aiming for that because that's what people want. Nothing new there. Amazon's recommendation engine isn't a new concept. It's been there for decades. But of course, we want to get as close as possible to that. Stage 3, amplify. Again, get your message out there across appropriate channels using AI to help you. This is not a new concept, Ian. Of course, that's what marketing is, right? It just happens that there's new channels, and one of those channels might be search engines that have a different way they interpret or present results with AI overviews, and that's why that whole AEO, or AI engine optimization, is discussed. And then stage 4 is evolve, which is just test and measure. There is nothing new here as a concept. Maybe you're going to use AI to help you test and gain insights that you feedback. And by the way, just to finish off my criticism of the loop concept, Ian, in the loop concept, if you follow their diagram, it's from evolve and it feeds back into stage 1, express. And I'm like, why would you do that? You could feed back to anything. Like a stage 4 test and measure, you feed back the results to the amplify stage, right? You don't have to go to stage 1.
True.
Maybe you tweak some of your branding and messaging, but you don't have to. You might go back to any stage. So I kind of feel that the loop concept fails, which is why I say just use it as a brand, use it as a label. But let's chat a bit more about personalization and AI, Ian, and your thoughts or feedback across those stages.
I think you have described it aptly, Craig. So I think let's go through the rest of the show because I feel that as we explain this more and we give some practical examples of things that we've been doing with ourselves and with our customers, I think people will start to understand it better. So,
all right. Well, that's high level, and we'll come back to the whole personalization piece. For example, in marketing emails, how do we personalize marketing emails? That's an interesting topic to discuss. But what we want to do is introduce the Loop Marketing Design Framework. This is something that we've come up with a particular emphasis on design because that's a key part of marketing, whether it's your sales collateral to email signatures to banners on social to landing pages, etc. There's a very strong design focus. And so what we've done is said, look, let's make design front and center, kind of the category that we're looking around. And then how does that fit in to the loop marketing concept? So we do have this framework. We're going to touch on it now and just walk through some of the stages. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. You can get access to this doc, Google Doc. I've got links in the show notes where you can get access to this. And also I've recorded some other videos that dive into it. But quite simply, if you think around the 4 stages, shall I go through each of them, Ian, or do you want to make any other comments at this point?
No, go through the...
Yeah. If you think about the express stage, stage 1, which really is a focus on messaging, what problem you solve, who you solve it for, there's various, I guess, activities you'd focus on. There's a whole strategy piece, which is brand identity and your ICP or ideal customer profile. There's a lot around data, and we should talk about that. It's a very important piece to it, getting your data right. But then when it comes to design, this is all your logos and style guides and slide decks and everything from Zoom backgrounds to business cards, right? This is about expressing who you are. When you think about stage 2, Tailor, which is really a focus on content, it's all those standard items, websites, landing pages. I think a real time for smart content to shine because this is all about personalizing your content. And then, of course, videos, social profile banners. And then when you get to Amplify, that's really where email templates and newsletters and social posts and trade show booths and bus shelters and all things come in, various formats about getting your message out there. Stage 4, which is really around evolve, which, as we've said, is test and measure. That's maybe where A/B testing comes in, or multivariate testing and some other things like that. We have other, I guess, ways to dig into this. There's a whole lot of AI tools. We're going to chat about some of those next. But one of the things, or one of the comments I wanted to make, Ian, was it seems like a lot of the AI tools mentioned by HubSpot in relation to loop marketing are either in beta or not even available yet. They're kind of a vision for the future. A little bit of vaporware vibes in some cases, but did you see much at Inbound that maybe demonstrated these tools, or was it still just very high level?
It was still very high level, Craig. And so I think what has happened is I was talking to a couple of the engineers. Things are definitely moving very quickly. So I'll give you a little example. They mentioned that they do 40% more code commits every day, right? So just think about the way things are progressing to like a year ago. So what was new, let's say at inbound 3 weeks ago, like has already progressed. Like I can see with the agents that are being rolled out and how they're becoming better, the assistants that are getting rolled out. Like you can definitely notice the difference. So I think, yes, when they announced it, not everything may have been ready, but there is enough in there now for people to go and actually play with it. So currently it's not being, even though they use Breeze credits, then because they're in beta, they're not using credits. So now is a time that I would encourage people, get the framework, go through and test the different agents out, see what's working, see what's not. Again, I'll come back to this. You need to have a good sense of what's happening. So I think a sense, and we'll talk about this further on. One of the agents that have been actually really good has been the deal loss agent. You still need to have a sense of your business and what's going on. You got to be tracking things. But the deal loss agent actually did a really good job of giving some very poignant feedback. So, but we'll come to that. So, but I want to just say, have a mindset of testing and measuring stuff today. And as the weeks go on, it'll just get better.
It's probably worth at this point talking about data, the importance of clean data. And one of the things we've done in the framework is we've actually said data cleanup. We've actually put it at every stage. It's probably the only thing we've put at every stage because data is so important and it's a continual process. I think part of the problem is there's been indications that our data can be cleaned up easily using Operations Hub. That's now been rebranded to Data Hub.
Yes.
Big improvement, by the way, much better name, I think. But this idea that data can be easily cleaned up is a bit of a misnomer. It's hard work and it's a continual process. Even things as simple as merging contacts is an ongoing process. There's no way to automate that. Well, in practice, I think in theory they say, oh, you can automate it using these tools. In practice, I think it's a manual thing. And some of our clients have thousands of contacts they've got to merge, and they've tried to just use some automated pieces, and it's actually reduced data quality. So there's a very big piece here that shouldn't be underestimated around data. And to your point about using the deal lost agent, it's like, well, if you haven't got the data in there, or it's not in the format, consistent across reps and all that kind of, how's an agent going to fix that for you?
Mm-hmm.
So getting the data right is foundational.
So I will say one thing, like if I was just had a thought about HubSpot CRM, the goal really is to have a CRM that updates itself. So you don't have to do the updating, and we'll cross some of this as we talk about smart properties and the use of all of these new tools and the data agent. That is one. The next thing is the use of assistants and agents. So assistants are more internal, and agents also can be internal and external in terms of their use. So it's really interesting how they have kind of separated the two. They kind of sit in the same bucket, but have two different use cases. Just utilizing and just thinking through some of the process. Like I don't think like they've thought about everything as yet. So for example, like when we were testing the other day and we said, I want you to go find out or run the call. Let's say look at the call scripts, if someone mentions about pain points, pull that into a property, right? That's a smart property. It's looking at call scripts. Now that uses credits, right? But there is no way to say, hey, I just want this done for leads or for customers or for opportunities. It's like any call script that's there, it's going to run through and it's going to run through that and put it against the company or the contact, right? Or that wherever that property is getting filled out, it's going to pull that through to there. So I think there's a bit of refining to happen, but it's all encouraging, like in the direction it's going.
I think you've nailed it. I think we're 6 months too early into this, and once it matures in 6 or 12 months, I wouldn't mind betting inbound next year. It's a lot more of a, what do they talk about? Evolution versus iteration, but kind of
Correct.
this sense that, it'll all come together. I feel that they've really launched a whole lot of stuff. Some of it's half-baked. Some of it, like you said, smart property. How do I set criteria so it only runs on 200 contacts that, not thousands, and chews up
Correct.
or does it chew up credits? Who
Yep.
knows? There's confusion. We don't know. You and I were testing, setting up smart properties to pull out pain points from calls. And it's like, well, hang on, is it going to try and do this for every contact? How do I limit it? We don't know. And
Correct.
so there's a lot of unknowns that we're only finding out through trial and error. And the other thing to mention, of course, is some of the agents, when they were first rolling out, you could only use them with copy and paste.
Mm.
And it's like, what? How do you call out an agent if I've got a copy and paste? Now, of course, there's, well, here's triggers to kick off this agent. And now there's actions like add to note or add task that can be run from the agent. So you can set up agents. A lot of that I don't think is being communicated, how will I say, simply in a way that people can just consume and go, oh, great, that's an update. It's just in this wash of updates coming out. And so people are overwhelmed, they don't know. And the problem when you start with something that when it's first released is it often sets your perception that, oh, it's limited. Oh, I've got to do this manually. You don't make a mental note to say, I'm going to come back in 2 weeks and see if they've updated this bit and made it easier. It's only when you go, oh, I stumble across, oh, wow, it is. And so why am I saying all this? Because I can understand why people, customers, users are so overwhelmed and confused, and they only have small amounts of time to check an agent. Oh, it's pretty basic now. They don't think I'm going to come back and check if it's improved. I guess they rely on us, Ian, you and I, in shows like this to kind of highlight it. And that's what we're trying to do. But imagine in a year's time when this is all mature, you can just go to a workflow and say, any of the agents I'm going to pull into a workflow. That's where a bunch of our clients are. They're like, oh, I can see all these agents. How do I use them in workflows? I'm like, yeah, sorry, that's not kind of how it works for most of them yet. They're like, why not? I know. I get it. Be patient. I'm sure that's going to improve over time. That's where we're at, and just this exciting time where it's kind of chaos and not really falling together. I think next year's inbound is going to be a lot more mature, or who knows, we might have super intelligence then by then, Ian. Who knows?
Craig, I don't know whether like one of the things that they didn't have a lot of emphasis on was the data enrichment, and that is now included in all accounts.
Yeah, didn't they just slip that in? Like that's a massive benefit, right?
That's right. And so, there's an enrichment checker that will check how many records can be enriched. So that's been really good. Like, and I guess if you're in Australia or Asia, a lot of regions that we serve customers in, you'll probably notice company records. There's a high level of enrichment. I'd say probably between 60 to 80%.
Mm,
But in terms of contact enrichment, it's really poor. It's like
mm,
I'd hovering between the 0 and 20%. So I always tell people like there's going to be things that it is great at doing because of the data that they have. And there are things that it's not going to be great at. Now, it might be great in the US, which I'm sure it is because a lot of the data aggregation is happening in there. So that's one thing to be aware of. The other thing that kind of flew under the radar was, which I'm very excited about, is Data Studio,
mm,
which is a separate area where you can have data, you can manipulate the data, you can join it from different places, you can even enrich it in there, and then you can push it into HubSpot contacts, companies, etc. Right?
mm.
And I don't think people have realized the power of that in terms of using that as a data studio or a hub, let's say, to kind of do different things and work things out. Often people working on spreadsheets. I feel like this is a place where you can put it into HubSpot, you can manipulate it, you can join it, you can collect data from spreadsheets online, you can from other sources, and you can meld the two together and do what you need to do in that one place.
Mm.
And so I encourage you, if you haven't looked at it, have a look at it and enable it. It'll make a massive difference to how you use and interact with your data.
That's a really good call out. And let's just remind listeners, why are we talking about data? Because it's fundamental to using AI,
Correct.
which you're going to use as part of loop marketing.
Yeah.
So don't feel you can start at the top. Oh, I'm just going to do these things. I'm just going to call an agent if the data is not there to support it. All right, we're going to quickly jump through some of the tools that they called out for each of the stages, just to kind of give them a bit of a passing mention. The
Yes.
express stage. What are the HubSpot tools here that they've recommended, Ian?
So mainly Breeze Assistant here, Craig, where you can
Mm.
analyze, optimize your customers, let's say your contacts. You can summarize good fit customers in there. It's getting better. They're going to be rolling out memory. I was talking to some of the product managers, what's coming. So it is exciting in that perspective, the memory and understanding your previous chats. You've got your connectors, so connecting ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. Now they have these different things. Like, so we use Google, for example, right? So we might choose to connect Gemini because that's readily available, or we might be using it in our business. Some of you would use ChatGPT. We use all three of them, so we're always testing to see which one's working better. So encourage you to actually do that. Not a lot of people are aware of that. Just have extra access to your data. There is Marketing Studio, which was the old campaigns tool. It's kind of changed a lot. If you haven't signed up to the daily tips of how to spot little things, that would be a good time to go do that. And then Smart CRM, which is just unifying your customer data and bringing it all together. So that's really the thing. And I'm going to run through here are some of the things to focus on in terms of metrics. If you're thinking about what's going on in the express stage, it's like how much content are you producing, or content velocity, and what the cost to create those assets. Having brand consistency across your channels, and customer persona accuracy. So a lot of this really has, if I was to think about it, is about being very persona specific. So it's really funny, Craig. I feel like we started personas, we kind of lost it, and now it's back again. And being really specific in our conversation with that persona. So you'll see a lot of the loop stuff is driven around messaging or content towards a particular persona and what you need to do. So that's becoming more and more critical. And that's a part of that express stage in there.
All right. I just want to make a few comments about this, because with the tools, there's a bit of a disconnect, I feel, in the HubSpot positioning. So they will say happily, we are aiming up market. We are gunning for enterprise. I don't know if they say it that explicitly, but that's the sense, right? Marketing Studio. They're aiming for that enterprise marketing studio feel. All their tools, like, we're heading for enterprise. And then they'll say, and here's the brand identity tool for brand consistency, right? And it's a very simplistic tool, right? No enterprise marketing manager is going to look at that tool and go, wow, that's a great fit for our enterprise in terms of brand consistency, right? All it does is keep a few colors so that, you've got some defaults when you create a landing page or things like that. There is no way that this is how you're going to put together your branding style and strategy, right? And so you've got this disconnect where HubSpot's saying, oh, we're aiming for enterprise, and here's the tools that are part of the express stage. It's like, no, they're not. Like, who are you talking to with this? And so what you get is just this wash where it's like, well, are you talking to me at enterprise or small business? Because I think the brand identity tool, the only person that's going to use that is someone in small business or, a very small marketing team. There's no way that's going to. And then the other thing, metrics to focus on. So this is HubSpot's own words: content velocity and creation costs. Like, what is that? I kind of understand the concept, but what is that? What's the content velocity metric? Like, what is the definition of that? How do you actually measure creation costs? There is nothing in HubSpot that's doing that.
Correct.
Like, there is no new concept here and no new tool in HubSpot to do that. Brand consistency across channels. I mean, how do you measure that? How do you say, yes, it was bad before and now it's good in any kind of scientific way? And customer persona accuracy, I guess, well, what's that mean? Oh, we just kept them updated, or we review them? Yeah. So this, I think, articulates exactly why people were confused. No one's going to disagree with these comments or these suggestions from HubSpot, but they're going to say, but hang on, how do I implement that? Now, if you're an enterprise marketing manager in charge of product team and all go to market, you're already across this. You've already got the tools and you've got this underway. If you're a small business, you're like, how do I do that? And so HubSpot's in this difficult position with a platform where they're trying to meet the needs of everyone and achieving them for none, potentially. Anyway, I just want to talk about that because these are the conversations we need to be having and helping our clients with kind of setting expectations for them that this is not a silver bullet tick box that's going to solve it. It's just a concept to get them thinking and on the same page, which is what we'll talk about later as the key benefit of the whole loop marketing playbook. But on to Taylor, what kind of tools they talk about here, Ian?
So let's talk about the new segments or lists, building audiences. It's interesting, the intent signals and behavioral data that's coming through. I think that's one of the big things. Personalization, which we know about, which we've had for years, now rolled in. The AI-powered email, I think that's going to be something that's going to be very interesting. It's not. I had conversations with product people about that, which I thought was actually very cool. But again, we're going to have to now think, well, how does, like in the sales part, we can say, hey, we want to review it before it goes, right? But in a marketing email, when you're sending 1,000 emails, you're not going to sit there and review 1,000 emails. Like, what's going to happen? Like, so I think there are some interesting ideas and concepts around it, but how does it work practically? That's what we're going to have to see happen. But I like the idea. And then, okay, coming back to data again, we're talking about Data Hub and Smart CRM, like having everything in one place, like making sure you've got your email engagement, your records are up to date, you've got your smart properties that's pulling data from things it can find, having your right integrations in place. So you got your SMS data in there, your ad data, and then next will be marketing and workflow. And then I did mention smart properties already. So those are some of the things. And I guess, Craig, if I was to think about, we've mentioned metrics to focus on, right? I think I really want to provoke people to think about this as a guide, right? Like, what's important to you at this stage that you'd want to measure, right? Like click-through rates across channels might be valid, right? If you're running video views on Facebook, there ain't going to be no click-through rates. The views you want to, or the audience you want to reach, right? What's important with your email engagement? So on a call with a customer today, they're like, oh, it looks like all the emails are going to promotions. What do? We have really low engagement. Maybe we need to try something different, right? Looking at conversion rates across segments, and then the effectiveness of personalization. So your landing pages, your emails. Now, we could do this a long time ago. I just feel like now it's probably going to be easier to do. But again, Craig, you and me look into hundreds of portals, and we could probably count on two hands the number of people that use personalization, right?
Exactly. Well, personalization in the sense of smart content and things like that. Well, they use personalization tokens, but yeah,
Correct.
everyone does that. But yeah, you're right. Smart content, A/B testing, multivariate testing, almost no one uses it. Smart content is this neglected, diamond sitting there. We use it a little bit, but not as much as we should. But more on that because we've got a whole piece that we're going to be rolling out around this.
I think smart content was ahead of its time, Craig.
Well, two things to mention there. One is I think it's a bit hard. People don't really understand it. What do I do? I switch out based on lists. What? So it was a bit of a difficult concept to get around. But the other thing around smart content is there are some performance considerations.
Yeah.
Like when you're tailoring content on the fly, it's not like bang, an instant render of a web page. For emails though, I think it's a much better story though.
Yep.
Yeah. I did want to mention segments and lists and comment on that because people are like, oh, why would you change the name of lists and confuse people all over again? And I can sympathize with that. But you know what? No one understands what lists are. Most clients, we go, oh, you go into lists. They go, what are lists? You go, oh, basically they're the way you segment your data. Oh, okay, got it. So calling it segments, I think, is, a great move. let's have the pain of people being confused by the name
Yeah.
change for a little while, but I think it's perfect. People understand segments. They never really understood lists.
All right. Take it away with Amplify, Craig.
So, I think you can debate where something sits. Is it in the Tailor stage or is it in the Amplify stage? Because personalized email newsletters, is that at the Tailor stage or is that at the Amplify? Because that's a channel email. Let's not worry about where it sits, right? Let's just make sure we're doing it. But what they've put in Amplify is really around AI engine optimization, the way people might come to your site externally and then interact with it. So, Customer Agent, I think, is one of the best AI tools they've rolled out. I think they've rolled out a lot of agents. Some have been lackluster. Customer Agent is the one that we're quite excited about and we're recommending to all our clients. I think they've made some changes on, you don't need Service Hub now or something. It just uses credits.
Yes,
Things like
correct.
that.
They pulled it out of service. It now sits across the platform.
So that's a great move. Look, they've got Marketing Studio and Content Remix. I guess that's part of it. Social tools, of course, and ad management, the SEO optimized tool. People say SEO is dead. Well, no, it's not. It's just like saying the funnel is dead. I think we could talk a whole episode about that. It's just know what's happening at each stage of the funnel has changed. And in fact, people still search for stuff and they still do click through from search engine results, even though the AI overview is there, but probably not clicking on what they used to click. There's different things. And there's that whole conversation around the intent of clicking in search engines has moved down the funnel. People actually say it's bottom of the funnel in one breath, and then the next breath they'll say, oh, the funnel's dead. No, it's just changed and that behavior's changed. And so metrics here are really about channel performance and ROI. I think Amplify is really where you start talking about dollars, ROI. What is the return on what you're doing out in the channels? Whereas in previous stage, Tailor, it's probably not as relevant.
I think the big thing here is that, and we've had a lot of conversations around AI visibility and how people are showing up. So one of the things that I picked up at Inbound was a lot of people were saying that were testing stuff were saying you now have like these AI engines essentially answering customers' problems before they even get to you, right? So really, you potentially have less traffic, but you have better quality traffic coming in, and really now we have to work on the conversion of all of this, right? So what are we doing? We need to really look. Probably should have stuck in here to be looking at CTR or conversion rates on pages, etc., where they're converting as a key metric, because if you're getting less traffic and they're more qualified, you should potentially have a greater conversion rate. Now, if that's not happening, maybe there is something wrong. So there's probably more things to look at on your page and be aware of.
Excellent point. But I guess that comes down to ROI, doesn't it?
Correct.
You might get less traffic, but maybe it converts better. And that's usually revenue is the way you're going to measure that.
And stage 4, Craig, evolving.
Evolve, test and measure is where I would
Correct.
summarize this. But yeah, what are the tools they're looking at in the evolve stage?
I think this all just comes down to analytics and optimization. So the analytics tools, you just got to get good with reporting, I think. Like that's just the bottom line.
Attribution and insights, feed that back, and
Correct.
attribution or insights might be A/B testing. Attribution might be the traffic that came. Yeah, but you're right. It's around reporting, taking those insights and feeding it back.
That's
And as we said earlier, not necessarily right to the start, it's back to stage 1, but it could just be back to your channel. This
Correct.
channel, optimizing. So yeah, lots of metrics there around results and performance analysis.
Correct. So looking at having the right dashboards in place, making sure you're tracking your experiments that you're doing, and then measuring and seeing what's working and feeding that back. All right. Tell us about the AI agent of the week, Craig.
All right. So let's quickly take stock of where we've got to so far. We've talked about loop marketing. There's some cynical take, consider it a label. Consider it 4 stages. Everything old is new again, but it's different. One of the benefits that we'll kind of finish off after this is just getting consistency there. What's the benefit of the loop marketing playbook? Well, just get everyone in your team to use it. They're all on the same page. But what we're going to actually do each episode now is we're going to actually dive into an agent an AI agent each episode. Just pick on one and talk about its benefits. And in today's one, we're going to actually talk about the deal lost agent, but with the lens of, well, how does this help with loop marketing? Because you might think deals, isn't that just the sales reps? What's that got to do with loop marketing side of things? And so let's dive into that. First, what is the deal lost agent, Ian? And yeah, how does it help with loop marketing?
So the deal loss agent is really there to go through all of your deals and understand why you lost it and to pick trends, right? So you can actually help you focus. So one of the it does take a little bit of time to run. When you do run it, often what I have been doing is running it. So we're 3/4 through the year. I've been telling the deal loss agent to look at all of the deals this year. So it's got a sizable amount of data. Obviously, you've got to have data again here. And then what it does is it really pulls, if you look at the prompt of the agent, you'll see it actually pulls a pretty concise and detailed report, an understanding of what's going on. And all of the customers that we've implemented this for and run it and had conversations around it, it's actually confirmed a lot of things that they thought because they couldn't pull it all together. But B also highlighted areas where there is this disconnect. So for one of our customers, Craig, the deal loss agent said there was this misalignment of expectation of the customer because they sell a high-end product between the pricing expectation set at the start and the quote that was getting delivered, and they were losing deals because of that. So then we had a conversation around how do we make sure that we set the expectation correctly at the start, so when they deliver the quote, there is no sticker shock to go, oh, I thought it was going to be this much. But also then made us realize is that, hey, we're not explaining to customers if we're using really high quality product, what's the difference between this product and this product that we use, right? And that's why there's a price difference. So want to educate them going in that, hey, this is not we're not using cheap things. We're actually using quality things that's going to last you. So the ROI is better on your build. And I think it was really insightful in that perspective of just going, oh, I can actually see it and I kind of get a sense of what's going on. It also highlighted certain people that were closing deals, like losing more deals. So just understanding who those people are, maybe they're not doing appropriate follow-up. And so you can see the number of interactions on a deal. All of those things were showing up, which was actually really good and just puts light on things that you can actually fix.
This is such a good example. I just want to unpack a few things here. If you think about a really good marketing manager or marketing team member, they're not siloed. The first sign or a good green flag of a good marketer is they talk to people in sales. Because we all know those marketing people go, oh, I don't want to talk to sales, silo my way off. And you're going, okay, you've just tied one hand behind your back. But they'll talk to sales. But what they normally talk to sales about is they say, oh, tell us the questions you're mainly getting from your prospects, because then we'll write content that tries to answer those questions and save you the effort. Okay, and great, full mark. That is actually a really good sign. Good marketers will do that. But what you've highlighted is that then the really good marketers, they come in at the end and they say, hey, I want to know why you're losing deals. Good sales managers will already be analyzing it, but good marketers will be saying, I want to know why you're losing deals because I can help you with better marketing. And so the process that the deal agent does is replacing a whole lot of manual work that used to happen where they'd go over and, oh, can you tell us about how you're losing deals? Or luckily, if it was in the CRM, they would do a report, custom report, and then they'd probably export it out to Excel and do pivot tables and try and make, I guess, some meaning out of all those closed loss reasons. It was quite manual, but a good marketer would do that. And now what we're doing, saying, Ian, is, well, we just use this agent. If the data's all in there, just send the agent in there, because it's not just pulling out tables of stuff. It's actually understanding the words behind it and giving you those insights. And so something like this, once you explained this to me earlier, and once you see that, you go, oh, this is such a handy part of the whole evolve and feedback part of loop marketing. It's an excellent way because that could go back to the start, could be positioning statements, could be the content, probably in the Tailor stages where you were talking about before. And so I think this is a great example of an agent that most marketers would overlook and yet provides really powerful insights into the whole marketing process.
All right. So how do people get started, Craig?
We're on the home stretch now. I want to talk about the main benefit of embracing loop marketing. And so just take a step back from all the steps and stages. I just want to say, get your team on the same page. Consistency. That's the benefit of the playbook, consistency. And the second point to make around the benefit, it's been developed by a company that has built the platform you're using. So not only do you get everyone consistent on the same page, but they're using the playbook for the platform that they're using. All right. Now, is it the best marketing framework or playbook to use? Who cares? Probably not. We could argue about whether there's better ones or what already existed, or is it the same as it doesn't matter. Get everyone on the same page. That is the benefit of loop marketing. Get everyone trained on it, not because it's the best marketing playbook, but because it makes you consistent. And the analogy I use, Ian, is people can debate which martial arts style is the best. Is it judo? Is it karate, taekwondo, jiu-jitsu? What? Doesn't matter. Just learn one and become a master at it. Pick the one that you're attracted to or is related to your environment. Same with loop marketing. Just pick it, get everyone using it. Don't go off choosing a little bit of high kicks from taekwondo there and a karate chop here and Frankenstein your marketing playbook. Just grab this and use it.
And listeners, if you're wondering why Craig used an analogy, he's a black belt karate.
Well, that's the one that came to mind, but anyway.
So he stuck to one thing. Well done, Craig.
All right. Finally, some loop marketing gotchas. And I think we just should highlight, and the usual AI caveats apply, right? AI gets it wrong. Well, I don't know how often, more than we'd like.
Correct. So I think getting it wrong, you having an understanding of your industry persona, all of that to pick out what's not right. I think dirty data gives you garbage insights. And this is often people look over this because at the end of the day, you're using your data that's in HubSpot, right? And the other thing is that you need to just make sure that you've got this check in place to make sure that nothing gets out the door. And that's an example in the, the sales outreach tool. I've forgotten the name. Where it'll go and it'll do the research and create the emails.
Oh, prospecting agent?
Prospecting agent, sorry. You can actually set it to automatically send stuff, right? But we're not at that stage yet where we say, no, we want to review this before it goes out. And so I guess you could call us cautious, but we are just understanding what A, it's producing, and B, how much we can trust it before we actually give it control. So I think that's really important. And if you think about it in a way that you teach a child or someone on your team that's new to something, you need to treat the AI a bit like that.
Yeah, 2 comments on that. First of all, dirty data gives garbage insights. Good comment. But one thing is that it gives wrong insights and makes stuff up. And I think we all know that. There's plenty of examples where, no, that's wrong. But the more dangerous case is that it misses stuff.
Yes.
The AI misses stuff. So you ask, show me all the deals and why they worked. And you can easily spot, got that wrong. But if it's missed something important, you don't see that. So that's the danger. And to the point about prospecting agent, yeah, I would be like, I'd always test those emails before they go out. But I will say, if you're just one of those outreach reps that just churns stuff out, I don't think they care. I think they're like, oh man, I can scale this outreach instantly to thousands of emails a day. Why do I care if 40% of them are junk, right? I was only sending 100 before. Now I can send 1,000. I don't care that 40% are junk because I've at least 5x the number going in. And look, it's not the world I want to live in where we're just scaling junk, but I can understand why people do it.
And we've been on the receiving end of that, Craig.
Oh, I get so much. We all get so much of it, right?
In the last 3 weeks, I'd have to say you and me have got very similar, identical emails in our inboxes. from
Yeah.
people.
That guy, the guy promoting hyper personalized emails, and we both got the same one. Yeah.
That's right. So it just goes to show, right? Like you still have to take care and you have to care about what you're doing. You cannot be careless about this whole process. And I think that's what's going to show through. It's like, how much do you care with what you produce and how you go about it?
Yeah.
Now, the other caveat we want to say, as we use all the tools, we still see a lot of things being a little bit disjointed. So, you set up your ICP, you were trying to use that in the prospecting agent. And there are a lot of times I feel like data lives in silos in terms of like being able to pull things in quickly. So if you've already set up your ICP and you've done a few things, why can't you pull that into your buying profile so you can quickly take a subset of that? Or so a really good example, helping one of our clients that does electrical and plumbing, right? They've got a couple of different customer profiles because they have commercial plumbing, they have residential plumbing, and they have only commercial electrical, right? So we need different profiles to run different people through to prepare that. But you have to pretty much fill everything out one by one. It almost feels like copy pasting along the way. And that's, I think, if you're running something very simplistically, it's fine. Like you just have one or two things to run. But as soon as you start getting hyper targeted and hyper personalized about things, you'll just realize there's a lot of cutting and pasting and a lot of things going on. And I think that's the next frontier in this evolution that HubSpot can improve with its tools and about how the data is getting used across different parts of the system.
I totally agree with that. It doesn't feel integrated. And I think we were alluding to that earlier. We're kind of on the cusp. We're starting all this stuff rolling out. And I think in 12 months, it's going to be a totally different platform, a lot more integrated. There's pros and cons of that because I don't want it to be too integrated that you have to have all this other stuff set up before you can use an agent, right? So if you see the buyer intent tool, it's like, oh, I just want to create a market on the fly. Oh, no, hang on. I've got to go over to markets and configure it first, right? So that's actually good and bad. It's like, well, oh, yeah, that's good. Just configure markets. Do it one in a central place, and then you can use it in buyer intent. But then the other thing is, but then you've got to do this. And what if there's something else I've got to do just before I can even use the buyer intent tool? So we don't want to make it onerous for people, let us say, using agents where it's like, I've got to set up all these other prerequisites before I can use the damn agent. But I want both. I don't want to have to manually copy and paste into an agent every time I use it if I've set it somewhere else. But I also don't want to have to have set it up somewhere else into a user.
I can see two sides of this coin,
isn't it? Yeah.
I think being given the option to copy something in, maybe that's the thing, not necessarily make it compulsory, but I think just having that ability to copy it in might be something to look at. All right. What's the training of the week, Craig?
Well, I just want to highlight the HubSpot Updates That Matter course. This is in our school community and the HubShots community. When I say school community, we use a platform called School, which is excellent for hosting our community there. So come and join us there. You can join the wait list. We let a few people in every day or so. Just join us there. Still free to join for now. But we have a ton of courses, and one of them that we've been updating, I think, every day is the Updates That Matter course. Roslyn and the team have been updating them with just the ones that matter. So out of the hundreds that HubSpot's releasing, we just pick, a couple each day or each week to highlight. And Roslyn, here's the main benefit of it. We use real world examples. She'll put in examples from our portal or from a client portal where we've, anonymized it. It's real examples of these updates. There's stuff from inbound, stuff around AI, things like that. So sign up and join us there. Quite a good community.
And finally, if you haven't got your HubShots daily tip, go sign up for that. There's some great tips that come out every day. Just that 1% better every day, Craig. And finally, the framework. If you're not using the HubShots framework and you're feeling lost with your HubSpot, it's a great way to get on track and understand where you're at and where you're going and the things that you can do to get you there.
Yeah, we've been updating that with the latest agents as well. So if it's a while since you've accessed it, make sure you download the latest.
And the latest hub.
That's right, latest hubs. Yep. We went in and changed Operations Hub to Data Hub.
And you added Commerce Hub as well, Craig?
Added Commerce Hub. popped in marketing studio and a whole
That's
ton
right.
of agents. Oh, it's so much to cover. All right.
Well, listeners, as always, thank you for listening. We do appreciate you. If you've got any comments or feedback, simply reply to the emails with the show notes or hit us up on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, Craig.
Catch you later, Ian.